story. This is the recap for the first game for the Syracuse Mets. They played Worcester, Red Sox AAA affiliate, and they put out Jonah Tong on the mound. They're trying to find a game story. It's been tough to find. So we'll just talk about Tong's performance. He pitched 4 innings in this game. Here's the headline from MLB minorleague.com. Tong-tastic 2025 minor league strikeout leader shines in season debut. Jonah Tong's season debut wasn't necessarily flashy. Then again, it didn't need to be, not on a 42-degree March day. It is going to be cold in New York City. So just keep in mind, if you're watching the Mets tomorrow, it's going to be cold. It's going to be in the 30s at Citi Field. MLB's number 48 prospect effectively mixed in his new cutter while displaying the hard-to-hit fastball he's becoming known for during a strong opening day performance for AAA Syracuse. Tong ran a high pitch count early, but settled in, striking out 4 across 4 scoreless innings and 3-1 win over Worcester at Polo Park. The 22-year-old right-hander topped out at 96.9 miles per hour and used 11 whiffs among his 73 pitches. Tong issued consecutive walks in the opening frame, but worked out of trouble and retired 10 of the final 11 hitters, including 8 straight, to end his outing. A 32-pitch first conspired against a deeper outing for the 22-year-old. That's not good, who nonetheless needed just 39 pitches to complete his final 3 innings. So that is troubling. That's been the issue with him in his career, has been his command. And we saw that a little bit when he pitched for the Mets. His command is not great for a major leaguer. It was the type of performance the Mets hoped to see more of from their number 3 prospect, who rode through the minors last season on his way to Queens for the final month of the campaign. So this is stuff that he has to work on. And that is his ability to throw strikes, his ability to command the game, manage the game, command his fastball, and command a third pitch. He's got a pretty good curveball, but he needs to sort of, that 6 to 12 curveball, 12 to 6 curveball, he needs to work on the third pitch and tighten up his command on his curveball. But hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hide, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, the Hide. Welcome back to the Baseball Hide 3, and hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So as we talk about here all the time, there's sort of these feuds that flare up. And the reason we talk about these feuds and why so many people watch these videos is because when it comes to the sports, everybody basically says the same things. Okay? And they talk about the score, they talk about who did what in the game, how they reacted after the game, what they did before the game. And these are the athletes. But, a lot of these talk show hosts, they all talk the same things. They all say the same things. There's so many times I'm driving and I'm listening to the radio, and those guys are saying the same stuff I'm saying. There's nothing really different about them. But when these feuds, pop up, where this one doesn't like that one doesn't like this one, people get into it. They're like, well, this is something different to talk about, something different to listen to. How many times talk about the Knicks or and their troubles? Be honest with you. Well, the Knicks, talk about the KAT, talk about Cat. And how many times are going to complain about him? So this kind of breaks up the monotony of talking about the same stuff every single day, or complaining about the Jets, or complaining about things with the Yankees, or the Mets, or the Rangers, okay, or whatever team you're talking about, in any sport, any city. So when you see these spats and these little hissy fits happen, people pay attention because it's something different to talk about amongst these guys and women. It's from Barrett Media. Seems like this one host doesn't get this, so let me explain that to him, if he's watching, and explain that to all of you, respectfully. From Barrett Media, the right time with Bomani Jones. Bomani Jones, amazed how many people care about sports media beef. I can name people that make a living talking about me, okay? But Bomani Jones doesn't quite understand how sports media became a show of its own. Yet, as recent headlines prove, he knows it is not slowing down anytime soon. During a recent episode of his podcast, the right time with Bomani Jones. He weighed in on the ongoing back and forth involving the not too intelligent Stephen A. Smith versus the very smug Jason Whitlock. While the dispute has captured attention across platforms, Jones took a step back to examine the bigger picture. Quote, I'm amazed at how many people are able to make a living covering us, Jones said. Well, I made some money off of some of this stuff. People love the drama, you know. Jones continued to express disbelief at the sheer scale of the sports media ecosystem, pointing out that fans attend games to watch athletes, not commentators. However, he noted that the entire industry now thrives on analyzing those who covered the games. Well, when you have all these personalities that you know you can sort of imitate them and all their little mannerisms and what they're going to see, you know what they're going to say before they say it. You know, they have a reputation. So people like the personalities. That's why, certain people are on TV, certain people have podcasts that are popular and stuff like that. Quote, I can name people that make a living talking about me, Joke Jones. It floors me that people care that much, particularly about sports media. Yeah, I mean, I'm like on the cutting edge when it talking about the sports media. Because all the other YouTubers that talk about sports, they don't talk about sports. So yeah, that's why I break it up and talk about the media, because I think that's interesting. Interesting. Then we have other places. We have Bear Media here. We have Outkick that talks about it, and of course, awful announcing. But for the most part, I don't think any independent YouTuber talks about it, other than me, as far as I know. The observation set the tone for his broader critique. Jones suggests that coverage of personalities become almost as prominent as coverage of sports themselves. As a result, media figures often become central characters in their own ongoing storylines. You know it, man. And in fact, Jones compared the dynamic to something closer to entertainment than journalism. Journalism? You guys are in the mainstream media. He, like many of the public, disputes the professional wrestling where conflict and personality drive engagement. It's true. I mean, we're going to be seeing this next week when Carl Banks, who got this big fight, in this big fight with the former WFAN personalities, Brandon Tierney and Sal Agata, they're now going to be doing an appearance together. He then referenced the ongoing back and forth between ESPN commentator Stephen A. Smith and Blaze TV commentator Jason Whitlock. Following an appearance by Whitlock on Cam Newton's 4th and 1 podcast, Smith responded with a 35-minute response on his YouTube feed. 35 minutes. I tell you, he also reminds me, Stephen A. Smith, of that character, if you're old enough, that character that was on In Living Color, the guy that was in jail. And he got his diploma, but he didn't know the meaning of words, and he kept kicking. That's what he reminds me of. I don't know why. Even so, Jones made it clear that he does not take the clashes too seriously. He said he sees them as part of a larger cycle fueled by audience interest in digital amplification. Right. He also acknowledged that others may invest more emotionally in the debates than he does. Still, not every media feud earns his attention. Jones explained that what keeps him engaged is not the argument itself, but whether it offers a sense of curiosity or resolution. Now, this spat between Greg Giannotti and, of course, Brandon Tierney, it kind of fizzled out, but in a way, it was more like Giannotti backed down because he didn't want to have a debate with Tierney, because it would have been pretty much, he would have backed down. He would have said he was sorry that he caused all that trouble. With the media beef, I don't think there's a whole, how it doesn't end question, Jones said. It's just the back and forth that comes out of it. But if you give me something where I'm like, I kind of got to know how that wraps up. Yep, I could probably stick around. Ultimately, Jones framed the Smith-Whitlock exchange as part of a broader trend. Sports media, he argued, now operates within a feedback loop. Personalities generate content, audiences react, and the cycle continues. Because of that, the line between analysis and entertainment, personal rivalry continued to blur. Okay? It's very interesting. It's a very interesting way. I read this. I didn't read the article beforehand, but I read the title of it. He has just a good take on it because, these sort of feuds that pop up between the personalities it sort of mingles in with talking about the sports and analysts, analyzing the different sports and the different athletes. But like I said, it also breaks up the monotony. Okay, it breaks up the monotony, and it's good for engagement. It's good for people leave comments on these videos. If I did a video just talking about, which I did before on the Syracuse Mets, it was all right to me there on the Prospect Channel, and what happened, on opening day for the Syracuse Mets. But when it comes to these spats, people take sides. Well, I like this guy. I like that guy. This guy is a jerk. That guy's a jerk. They make comments about their appearance. And sometimes they attack, of course, your host. Who I would mention, if you do that, that's not a good idea. And a lot of times I notice when people do leave those comments towards me, it's usually in the middle of the night. Because if it's during the day, I respond very quickly. But if it's in the middle of the night, I was like, this guy needs to get some sleep. And they get sent off to the phantom zone. But like I said, the big thing is this changes things up a little bit. So that's why, and people love covering this. I mean, I love covering this. And you're going to see more channels popping up. I know there's another channel that has been doing content on WFAN. Hey, dude, you're not me. You can't even compare to what I do. And I don't look at the WFAN people as, anybody I know. So they're strangers to me on the internet. That's how I kind of treat it. But can't compete with what I do here, that's for sure. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the Baseball Hut 3. And again, just very quickly, channels do this on every channel that's worth their weight in gold. Always ask for subscribers, okay? If I don't do that, then people aren't going to subscribe. You're going to give them reasons to subscribe. One of the things that I get out of this is so many people watch, which is great, but so many people don't subscribe. It's very simple. There's several ways to do it. It'll say a little subscribe button at the bottom of the video if you're looking on your phone, on your computer. Just click on that. Over the last month, I've had about 13,000 people watch my videos, and about 10,000 of those are new people watching. So if you're watching for the first time, please hit the subscribe button. If I get a portion of you, I'll get to it down in subscribers. The best channels all ask for people to subscribe, okay? Don't tell people to subscribe. Most of them are not going to subscribe. Simple as that. Some guy wrote to me earlier today and told me to shut up. Stop saying it. I'm going to keep saying it because this is my money I have on the side. So there's a lot of money riding on just getting this little channel monetized, and I didn't think it would. I kind of knew it would get monetized, to be honest with you. People love this gossip, this going back and forth and goofing on them and everything else. So thank you for watching this video. Of course, please subscribe finally to the Baseball Hut 3. I'll see you later. Here's the number 2 prospect in Major League Baseball according to MLB Pipeline. This is Detroit Tigers shortstop Kevin McGonigal. Max Clark's below slot deal as the 3rd overall pick in 2023. Allowed the Tigers to get aggressive, select McGonigal number 37 overall and sign him for above slot at $2.8 million. The Pennsylvania native has seen some injuries, a fractured right hamate in 2024, right ankle sprain early in 2025, but has absolutely mashed it everywhere since going pro. He split last season between High A West Michigan and Double A Erie and hit .305 with 19 home runs, 59 walks, and 46 strikeouts in 88 games. He made up for the lost time in the Arizona Fall League, where he earned MVP honors by producing a .362 batting average, .1210 OPS across 90 plate appearances. McGonigal is arguably the best hitting prospect of the 2020 so far. He combines the right amount of plate discipline with aggression on pitches he can drive, and he pounds balls in the air into all fields with a specific aptitude for pulled shots. Standing 5'9" on the left side of the box, he can look like a coil ready to spring, making him a menace on inside pitches. But he can move the bat around well enough to protect all parts of the plate. His increased strength and quality of angles push his power projection into plus territory. The former Auburn recruit can get moving out of the box, though he was of a steals threat before the ankle injury. His defense was a priority in the Fall League, where he saw time at third. His footwork is stretched at the 6. While Gleyber Torres' presence complicates matters in Detroit, McGonigal still might fit best at second base long term. No matter where he lands, he has the ceiling of a multi-time batting champion. Now please subscribe to the Prospect Hub for more prospect scan reports. This is the 10th best prospect according to Fangraphs for the New York Mets. Right fielder, first baseman Ryan Clifford. Clifford was ranked 57th on the 2022 draft board as an advanced, big-framed left field first base prospect. Looked very athletic in the batter's box, and not so much on defense. It took just over $1.25 million for the Astros to keep him from heading to Vanderbilt. And he lit Low A on fire to start 2023 and was promptly traded to the Mets as part of the Justin Verlander deal. In 2025, he slugged his way to AAA Syracuse by clobbering 24 AA homers in just 105 games. Clifford's dangerous lefty power has fueled an average of 24 homers in each of his 3 full seasons as pro. He consistently hits the ball hard and has enough juice to lead the yard to all fields when he gets a mistake he can handle. He also shows the ability to move the barrel around the bottom 2/3 of the zone, and he cuts his stride with 2 strikes. He's a good rotational athlete with a high-effort swing. Clifford's footwork has been simplified over the years, but he still hauls off hacks, often losing track of the baseball. It's possible the changes to his footwork have helped him to stay on time against fastballs better. He had 194 against them in 2023 and 2024 combined, then 230 against them in 2024. That isn't great, and Clifford will probably always swing underneath his fair share of elevated fastballs, but it's playable. On defense, Clifford has played a mix of first base and both corner outfield spots. He isn't a great ball handler at first and is a better fit in the outfield, though the departure of Pete Alonso perhaps makes him more likely to debut on the infield. He's going to strike out a little too much to profile as a first division hitter at the lesser corner positions, but he should still be a righty mashing platoon bat who plays a valuable role, a la Lucas Duda. Now, please hit the subscribe button for the Prospect Hut. This is the best prospect in Major League Baseball according to MLB.com. Pittsburgh shortstop Connor Griffin. Griffin had the best set of all-around raw tools in the draft class of 2024, but there were concerns about his hitability that kept him from being considered for the very top of the draft. As a result, he lasted until number 9, where the Pirates signed him for just over $6.5 million. He then exceeded any and all expectations by going from single A to double A, leading all minor league hitters with more than 400 plate appearances with a 165 WRC+, finishing with a 2060 season as a 19-year-old en route to becoming the number 1 prospect in baseball. While Griffin entered Pro Ball with 4+ tools and questions about the 5th to hit, he exited his first pro season having answered all of them. The holes in his swing were closed thanks to some mechanical adjustments like his hand placement, allowing him to use his plus bat speed, strength, and leverage to get to his plus raw power fairly consistently. There's plenty more to come as he learns to turn on pitches in the air more and react better to spin. He connects to add strength to his 6'4" frame without sacrificing any of his athleticism or flexibility. Griffin also uses his double plus speed well, swiping 65 bases in 78 tries during his pro debut. The original plan was for him to split time between shortstop and center field, but while many thought the outfield would be his best long-term, his defense on the dirt was another area where he was even better than anticipated. With a hose of an arm, he now looks like the shortstop of the near future for the Pirates, one with superstar potential. Now, you want to know everything that's going on in Major League Baseball's prospects, hit the subscribe button. Here's the Mets' 9th best prospect according to Fangraphs, right-handed pitcher Will Watson. At this point in the list, this is from Fangraphs, you'd be forgiven for thinking that draft position says little about a pitcher's future. So long as that pitcher signs with the Mets. Watson is another example. A 7th rounder who embarked on a 3-stop college career starting at Division III Cal Lutheran before winding up in USC's rotation. There, his athleticism and arm strength were intriguing, even with middling control and strikeout figures. Watson's secondaries helped carry him to the upper levels quickly. Like so many others in this system, he's a low-slot guy with above-average extension and ability to generate east-west movement. His slider doesn't move a ton, but it breaks late, and his feel for location jumps out. His change is similarly late, tail on the other side and generated 43% miss rate last season. He tends to use those as kill shot pitches, leaning more on his cutter and fastball early in counts. One possible path forward if he encounters a speed bump would be leaning more on his head, on his bread and butter. Watson had a couple of markers on his delivery, head whack, long arm path, that normally signal a future in relief. But Watson is a really good athlete and he might just get away with it. The stroke is long but very loose, and his ability to move the ball around the plate, with particularly evident feel for running his slider off the plate, glove side, and onto the arm side edge, speaks for itself. Still, he's walked a little more than 4 per 9 throughout his college and pro career, which is a lot for a starter. It stems more from his tendency to work the edges than his inability to hit a region, but is an issue regardless. Careful approach makes sense with his stuff, which is good if not great in a length role. He could fit in as a number 4-5 type starter with a mid-high leverage relief fallback if he's not throwing quite enough strikes to stick in the rotation. Now this is another scanning report of Mets prospect Will Watson. Now before we get into this video, I'm asking you very nicely, over the last month, I've had about 13,000 people come in and watch the videos separately, and about 10,000 of you are new. So I would hope that a small percentage of you could come in and subscribe to the Baseball Hut 3, and that would be great. We're almost getting close to 1,000. I need a little more help. Maybe a small percentage of you hit the subscribe button watching this video would help me out a lot. It's insurance for in case we have a lockout with Major League Baseball. All right, here we go. Now kick it. Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Hut, and welcome back to another visit to the insane asylum known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny fun.
And welcome back to the Baseball Hut 3, and hopefully you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. We're back here at the Baseball Hut 3 talking about the insane people at WFAN. And let's sort of go over what happened this week. This was a crazy week because we had host and former host of the station going at it. And, of course, that has to do with the nut job in the morning, Greg Giannotti, and the coconut head, Brandon Tierney. And this all started about a year ago when Giannotti prank called Tierney on the radio and didn't reveal it. He let it go for a year until after Tierney left the radio station, had essentially gotten fired from his midday show with the Spaz Sal Licata. Unfortunately, Giannotti did not do the right thing, and that's tell him right away that he pranked him. Now, there was a concern here from Tierney because he thought he was going to lose his job at St. John's. I don't want to get into the details of it, but that's what happened. That's what the concern was from Tierney's angle. Also, Tierney went on the radio station last week to talk about St. John's because he's the analyst for the radio play-by-play. And I guess Giannotti didn't like the fact that he was going to do a spot. He called and said, "Can I go on the air?" And he didn't like that, so he put out there that he was the one that pranked him a year ago. Well, this is a coward move. I'm a person that likes to prank people. You don't wait a year and then do it after the person leaves. You don't have to worry about confronting them or them confronting you. So that was a bad move, and Tierney called him a bad teammate. Well, this set off fireworks on Monday, and we covered it all here, but I'm going to go over some more stuff, and I'm going to talk about who won in this situation. I think we have a pretty good idea of the person who won with this fight, with this feud. I don't know if it's real or not. This is the headline again from Barra Media. WFAN, Greg Giannotti, and Brandon Tierney. People hated working with that guy. Tension between current and former WFAN hosts spilled back onto the airwaves Monday morning as Greg Giannotti delivered a pointed and at times personal response to criticism from Brandon Tierney during an appearance on the station last week. Quote, I'm going to skip to the quote part. Quote, "I was told that BT pressed very hard to have a St. John's appearance on the radio station. He pressed star program director Ryan Hurley very hard to get on the station. The station that he thinks now," said Giannotti. "He really had to get on the radio station to talk St. John's because I guess WFAN still matters, but it doesn't on his podcast. This is more than just that. That irritated him, and he wanted to embarrass Tierney. Beyond the booking itself, however, Tierney took particular issue with Tierney's characterization of his behavior during a past on-air prank, which Tierney cited as evidence of poor teamwork. Giannotti rejected that notion outright, arguing instead the situation highlighted a broader issue with Tierney's approach to the medium, including an inability to embrace humor and self-awareness in a format that often relies on both. But here's the thing, asshole, you didn't tell him that you pranked him. So that's a real psychotic kind of way, and then you do it a year later after he's not at the station anymore. Quote, he said that I was implying that he was drinking with the team, and that's being a bad teammate. His take on that is exactly the reason why he couldn't cut it here. He's someone who takes things way too seriously. He can't laugh at himself, and he doesn't get it. If he did and showed a little bit more personality and could laugh at himself, maybe he would have had more success here. This guy's crazy. I mean, this tells you how Giannotti is just completely insane, because you don't say nothing. If you're going to prank somebody, you let it be known that you're pranking them. Maybe the next morning he plays the call. That's what they used to do on Imus. Imus would have, Bernard McGurk would call one of the shows at night, prank the host, and then they would play it the next morning. He didn't do that. He waited a year. And why? Because he was mad that Tierney had the nerve to ask to come back on the radio station. And then he went scorched earth. Everybody that worked for Brandon couldn't stand him. So you want to go down the road, we'll go down the road, Gregory said. People hated working with that guy. He's a bad teammate. He would trash his producers and would belittle them. So don't tell me I'm a bad teammate because you can't take a joke. Yeah, but you didn't tell him until he left the radio station. And not one producer has come out of the woodwork to back this story up. Okay? Not one producer. Not one. Our program director, Ryan Hurley, is also a bad teammate for putting him on, caving in that situation. He has no problem. The one thing I've noticed about Giannotti, he has no problem throwing people under the bus. So he's throwing the program director, who's his boss, under the bus. Program directors have to take it, unfortunately. When it comes to these so-called shock jocks, they have to take us to the on-air talent, okay? Really. He's also a bad teammate for putting him on and caving in that situation, being essentially a marshmallow speed bump. That was ridiculous. Should have never happened. Honestly, if you had any balls at all, you would say no, said Giannotti. WFAN gave you an opportunity to goodbye shows and promote your stuff. Then you go on and you co-sign dumbass Joe Beningo's comments. Now we're going to let you back on the radio station to promote St. John's because you begged. More decisions like that, Hurley, won't be around at all. Ridiculous. Have the backs of the people that are here. Again, he will throw anybody under the bus. He doesn't care. And as it turned out, Tierney said, well, why don't I come on your show and we'll hash it out, we'll talk it out. And Giannotti basically said no. And Giannotti said, well, if you come on, you'll kill our ratings. Let me tell you something. The ratings would have exploded. Or however long that segment was. They would have posted it all over YouTube. They would have had the highest numbers they've had in a long time since Mike Francesa yelled at them. But by the way, and of course, they'll have huge following. And it would have been great for this channel too. Everybody would have been involved. It would have been a great way to air their grievances in a public way. But Giannotti backed down because Giannotti was wrong. And he knew he was wrong. He should not have let this go on for a year. Okay? You should not have let this go on for a year, not telling him that he pranked him. Like I said, you're going to prank somebody, you do it in a way that doesn't get the person pissed off. They get pissed off initially, but then they let it go, and they laugh about it afterwards. But if you let this go on for a year, this is psychosis here. A psychotic attitude about this whole thing. And he really ripped into him. And then he backs down and says, well, you're going to drag the ratings down. You're the one that started this trouble, man. You did. You initiated it. How do you think he was going to react to being pranked and not knowing that you pranked him a year later? And you do when he's not in the radio station. So where he can't face you face to face, man to man. A radio tough guy. And we know that about this guy. He's very soft. He's a radio tough guy. That's why he didn't have him on. And he'll rip into you and he don't care. We've seen this before with him. he basically ripped apart Evan Roberts' Joe Beningo show when it came to Carl Banks. We saw this about 3 years ago, basically ripping into them when it came to that show, because he was the producer of that show. He ripped into Carl Banks when there was no reason for him to interject himself into it. This is what you... And then, again, he had a chance to squash this. He could have said, you know what, Brandon, I'm sorry. I should have told you about a year ago. I apologize. And then he could have went on his merry little way. And that would have diffused it. Now, this is going to pop up again. This will pop up again. At some point. At some point, Giannotti is going to have a meltdown when it comes to Tierney. Because Tierney will be asked a question on social media about Giannotti. And that will happen. And then you'll see a whole big kerfluffle again. So as you wonder who won in this situation, I would say Tierney won in this situation for the simple fact that when he didn't back down, okay, he called him out after finding out that he was the one that pranked him, and then he went after him again, okay, and Giannotti made himself look bad because, like I said, you want to prank somebody, you prank them, but you don't let it go on for a year. And then when the other person has the right to say, let's talk this out, and you say, well, I don't want to talk to you. You're just going to drag me down. And then you see guys like Craig Carton with the nerve of saying, you know what, in this situation, Greg is punching down. That is difficult to point out when you are a convicted criminal, okay? You have no right to be judging anybody when it comes to this stuff. That's for damn sure, okay? And I would mention, again, I mentioned in another video, that the only reason that Craig Carton is back at the radio station is because he's got the backing of Hollywood and the backing of politicians. The fact that he's able to get these kinds of people on his show on a regular basis tells you that there's a major problem in terms of who's behind all that. People have been saying and been writing to me, when he must have something over the program director. He must have something over Chris Oliver. No, he doesn't. What he has is Hollywood. What he has is politicians in his back pocket that'll support him at a drop of a hat, like Chris Christie and Steven Sharippa and whoever other athletes we're talking about here and celebrities we're talking about here. But that's an aside, and I've talked about it in a separate video. But yeah, Brandon Tierney won this round because he's just defending himself against a nut job. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. And of course, this is another episode of the Nut Jobs. All in good fun at the radio station known as WFAN. Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hud, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, Hud, and welcome back to another visit to the insane asylum known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny fun.
The 8th best Mets prospect, according to Fangraphs, is left-handed pitcher Jonathan Santucci. Santucci was wild and missed time with a rib injury during his draft year, which pushed him out of the first round into the Mets with the organization's second-round pick. The early evidence is that player and club make a good match because the Southpaw's stock is up year over year. The Mets have reworked his delivery. He shifted his spot on the rubber toward first base. He's pitching at a higher tempo, and his finish looks a little cleaner. His arm swing a bit shorter and more fluid. Individually, none of these are massive adjustments, but taken together, he looks significantly more dynamic. Perhaps not surprisingly, he's throwing a lot more strikes, and he nearly halved his walk rate from 14% at Duke to 8.5% across 2 levels of Pro Bowl. Santucci's stuff and attack haven't changed nearly as much. He's still sitting in the mid-90s with above-average vertical break on his fastball, which he pairs with an above-average 2-plane slider. He throws those pitches almost exclusively, scattered in just a few changeups here and there. Not surprisingly, the Cambio is underbaked. He tends to either release it early and have it miss competitively to the sidearm, arm side, or he'll pull it with him. The development of that third pitch seems important because Santucci's bread and butter is more good than great. And while he hasn't run big platoon splits yet, it's tough to work with a narrow arsenal like this multiple times through a big league order, particularly with fringy or average command. It isn't time to throw Santucci into the bullpen by any means. He was very good last year. Perhaps we should have mentioned sooner that he put up a 2.52 ERA for 11.3 strikeouts per 9 and 10 starts, following promotion to Double-A. And the improved delivery and control are tangible evidence that he has the aptitude to make adjustments. Finding a reliable changeup is a different kettle of fish, however, and it'll be interesting to monitor his use of the pitch right out of the gate. He has the ceiling of a number 4 starter, but for obvious reasons there's substantial relief risk as well. Now, if you want to know what's going on with the Mets prospects and plenty of scouting reports, hit the subscribe button. We have a Long Island Ducks signing today. They announced today that they signed left-handed pitcher Garrett Crowley and right-handed pitcher Tanner Jacobson. Crowley begins his second season with the Ducks and third in professional baseball, while Jacobson enters his second season with the Ducks and fifth in professional baseball. Crowley joined the flock in August of 25 and pitched in 5 games. He struck out 11 batters and 5 innings of work while conceding 2 runs and 3 hits and 3 walks. The 26-year-old began the season in the Frontier League, pitching 24 games with Capitales de Quebec and 10 games with the Evansville Otters. The Forest Hills, New York native began his professional career in 2024 with the Idaho Fall Chuckers of the Pioneer League. Jacobson signed with the Ducks in August of 25 and made 7 relief appearances with the team. He posted a 3-0 record with a 4.00 ERA and struck out 8 batters and 9 innings of work. Long Island won 6 of the 7 games he pitched in, and he collected the win in his debut on August 28th against the York Revolution. The Pittsburgh native spent the first 4 seasons of his career in the Cardinal system. He pitched in 112 games, compounded. Here's the scouting report for the Mets' 7th best prospect, according to Fangraphs, and that is shortstop Wandy Azagan. It's unclear whether or not turnover in the Yankees International Scouting Department precipitated Azagan's shift from one New York team to the other in the weeks leading up to the 2026 International Amateur Signing Period, but that's what happened. The Mets only had the space to add Azagan to their class because another player with whom they had a multi-million-dollar agreement failed his age identity verification, voiding his deal. Arguably the best all-around prospect in the 2026 class, he ranked first at Fangraphs. Azagan signed for just shy of $4 million in January. Azagan's talent is consistent with that of a high school player who'd feel like a good bet to be selected within the top 5 picks of a draft. A lefty hitting long-term shortstop with exciting physical projection. His low ball power and bat speed give him rare ceiling, the potential to be a 25-homer weapon who also plays a good shortstop. Where his profile slips some is in his hit tool risk. His swing is so geared for low ball contact that he struggled with elevated fastballs during some international play. And Fangraphs just won't know how he handles pro velocity until he's forced to do it day after day. The hit tool piece of his profile has a little more risk than is typical for a prospect ready this aggressively at his age. But Azagan has overt league physicality and infield athleticism, and he won't turn 17 until late August. He has a wide range of potential outcomes, everything from strikeout-prone busts to 5-tool shortstop, and the slugging, second base, third base outcomes in between. But a lot of them are really exciting. Now, this is the scouting report for Wandy Azagan, and I would ask you that you please subscribe to the Baseball Hut's version of the Prospect Hut, and I'll see you later. Here is the scouting report for the Mets' 6th best prospect according to Fangraphs. This is outfielder A.J. Ewing. Ewing was an Alabama commit in Ohio who the Mets scooped up for $675,000. Despite dicey early career strikeout totals, his blazing speed allowed him to thrive as an A-ball hitter in 2023 and 2024. In 2025, essentially repeating low A to start the year, Ewing cut his strikeouts considerably from 27% to about 18.6%, while racing to Double-A, stealing 70 bases in the process. He spent the middle 2/3 of the year in High A Brooklyn, where he slashed .288 batting average, .387 on base, and a .388 slugging percentage. The right of things better illustrates his abilities as a hitter than the Husky .430 slugging percentage Ewing posted at Binghamton at the end of the year. Ewing's speed is the driving force of his entire profile. It's what has facilitated a successful pro transition from second base to center field, where Ewing spent the bulk of 2024 and 2025 on defense. Though his inexperience in center sometimes shows itself in the form of an overzealous throw or occasional flub, his range is really special, and we think he will grow into a plus center fielder at his peak. If he keeps improving at the rate he has so far, remember Ewing only began playing center regularly in 2024. That's going to happen pretty quickly. He played 19 games at second in 2025, but Ewing has never had the hands to the infield. He should only play there in case of an emergency. Ewing's speed also drives his offense. He leaves the batter's box as if he were shot out of a cannon and runs in a 4.10 range from home to first. Turns some singles into doubles and doubles into triples. He tends to hit the ball where it's pitched, and the way his hands work often leaves him hitting the top of the pitches on the inner part of the plate, leading to lots of opposing liners versus fastballs. He sprays all fields, contact, and buttons heaters, like you'd expect a sub-400 slugging percentage table setter to do. This is the sort of skill set we associate with a great lineup's 9-hole hitter, a second division center fielder. Is there an adjustment to be made here that will facilitate more power? Ewing has become meaningfully stronger since signing, but he hasn't overdone it at the cost of other aspects of his athleticism. If that can continue and he can add another grade of power deeper into his 20s, then we're talking about a top 20 player at his position. Ewing's chalk 40-man roster timeline puts him on track for a post-2027 edition. The plethora of options ahead of him on the Mets depth chart, including other youngsters like Nick Morabito and Carson Bench, make it unlikely that the team will need to rush him.